All right, strap yourselves in, everyone, because we're about to jump headfirst into a deep dive of EVE Online. Yeah, that's right, EVE Online, that notoriously complex and massive space MMO. We actually got a fantastical beginner's guide from one of our listeners, and let me tell you, I was hooked just reading the premise. Just the sheer scale of this thing, a single universe with thousands of players all interacting, shaping the economy, writing their own stories, waging these huge wars. It's practically a living, breathing society, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. And you're not just playing some character in this world, you're a capsuleer, which
Hmm.
basically means even death is just a temporary setback.
Yeah.
Your consciousness just jumps into a new clone and boom, you're back in action. It completely changes how you approach the game.
Oh, absolutely. It's like risk taking is almost encouraged because you know you can always bounce back. But where do you even begin in a game this massive? The guide mentions these four main factions. Let's see, Amar, Kaldari, Galente, and Minmatar.
Right, those factions are essentially your starting point in the EVE universe. Each one's got its own distinct culture, like philosophies, aesthetics, even specialized ships. You could start out with the laser-focused Amar, for example, but later on, you might find yourself commanding a Galente carrier swarming with drones. That's kind of the beauty of EVE. The choices are always there.
So it's more than just picking a team color. It's like immersing yourself in a whole culture within the game. Speaking of which, the guide also mentions these bloodlines within each faction. Is that just cosmetic, or does it have some impact on gameplay?
Hmm. Bloodlines mainly add some extra flavor to your character's backstory and appearance. It's like a subtle tie-in to the rich lore of each faction. When it comes to gameplay, though, it's the starting school that makes the initial difference.
Starting school, like you mean choosing between combat, industry, exploration, that sort of thing. Does that lock you into a particular path? I'm already feeling a bit overwhelmed with all the choices.
No, no, not at all. Don't worry. It's more like getting a head start in a specific area. Like, if you want to jump straight into the action, the combat school equips you with the necessary skills. But you're totally free to explore mining or exploration later on. It's more about your initial focus, not a permanent restriction.
Okay, that makes sense. That takes some pressure off. But this is where it gets really mind-boggling for me, navigating this massive universe, over 7,000 star systems. I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling, isn't it? The guide explains how all these star systems are linked through these things called stargates. They act like cosmic highways, connecting everything. But here's the thing. Each system has a security level. You've got high security space, which is relatively safe, perfect for beginners to find their feet. Then there's low security space, where things get a bit riskier. And then finally, there's null security space. That's where the real Wild West of EVE Online unfolds.
Null security space, huh? The guide makes it sound pretty intense, like it's a total free-for-all out there, player alliances, carving out their own territories, battling over resources. It sounds almost like a real-world power struggle playing out.
It's pretty amazing, really.
Yep.
Null security is where you see the true potential of EVE's player-driven dynamics. There's no Concord out there, the NPC police force that keeps things in check in high security space. It's basically players policing themselves, forming alliances, rivalries, the whole 9 yards.
So there's no safety net out there, you're on your own. Which reminds me of that golden rule the guide mentioned: never fly what you can't afford to lose. It seems like embracing risk is just part of the DNA of EVE Online.
It absolutely is. That constant uncertainty, that knowledge that your fortune could change in an instant, that's what makes success in EVE so rewarding. Just knowing that a single decision could lead to triumph or setback, the stakes are real.
It's a totally different mindset from most MMOs. Speaking of rewards, what are some of the ways a new player can start, building their fortune? The guide keeps mentioning ISK, which I assume is the in-game currency.
Yeah, ISK is basically the lifeblood of the EVE economy. For new players, mining is a pretty solid starting point.
Hmm.
It's relatively safe, at least in high security space. And it teaches you the basics, like fitting your ship, gathering resources, interacting with the market.
So you're literally flying out to asteroid belts and harvesting resources. Sounds like a good way to learn the ropes of EVE's economy.
Exactly, those raw materials you mine fuel the entire game. From building ships to crafting advanced technology, it all starts with mining. Now, if you're more action-oriented, the guide also talks about mission running.
Ah, that sounds more my style. Mission running, that's like a classic MMO staple, right? Is it the same idea, completing tasks for rewards?
There are definitely some similarities. You'll be taking on tasks from NPC agents, everything from simple deliveries to intense combat scenarios. It's a great way to earn some ISK, refine your combat skills, and learn about the different factions.
So you're getting action, lore, and world building all rolled into one. I'm already picturing myself dogfighting space pirates and uncovering conspiracies.
Yeah.
What about exploration, though? I've always been a sucker for, venturing into the unknown.
Oh, then you'll love exploration in Eve. Imagine this, you're in a specialized ship, decked out with scanners and probes. You're out there in the depths of space, searching for hidden sites full of valuable loot, ancient artifacts, maybe even wormholes leading to uncharted territory.
Wormholes. That sounds pretty wild and probably dangerous. Speaking of danger, the guide also mentioned this thing called faction warfare. Is that where all the massive player battles happen?
Faction warfare is a bit more structured than the free-for-all of null security space. It's like you enlist with a particular faction and fight for control of specific star systems. Imagine a constant tug-of-war on a cosmic scale.
So you're not just fighting for personal glory, you're fighting for your faction's dominance. I can see the appeal for players who love a bit of strategy.
Yeah, and it's not just about conquering territory. You earn loyalty points, which can be exchanged for faction-specific rewards. It really immerses you in the lore and politics of the EVE universe.
This is shaping up to be way more than just a game. It's like a whole universe with its own rules, its own societies, its own history.
And we've only just begun to explore it. Are you ready to go even deeper?
Okay, I'm ready. Let's talk about null security space. This sounds like the high stakes area where the rewards are huge, but so are the risks.
That's a pretty good way to put it, yeah. You're leaving those safe, protected zones behind and stepping into a region where player alliances really hold all the power. It's fascinating how they control these vast territories, basically dictating their own laws.
Yeah.
And forget about Concord. The NPC police, they have zero authority out here.
It sounds like a whole different ballgame. The guide really stresses the importance of joining an alliance if you're going to venture into null security. Is it really that crucial?
I mean, crucial might not be the right word. It's more about understanding the nature of null-sec. It's like, imagine trying to build a house in the middle of the wilderness with no protection whatsoever. You're going to be vulnerable to everything, the elements, wild animals. In null-sec, those elements are other players, and those animals are rival alliances. They're out there looking to grab your resources, your territory, everything. An alliance gives you that structure, that shared strength, so you can actually thrive in that kind of environment.
So it's not just about safety and numbers. It's about having the organization and resources to achieve your goals out there. What kind of goals are we even talking about? I mean, the guide mentions mining high-value ores, but is there more to it than that?
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot more going on. Mining those ores is just one piece of the puzzle. Those ores are what you need to build the most powerful ships and modules in the game.
Hmm.
So the demand is huge, but nullsec is also where you can set up these large-scale industry operations. Think massive player-built structures, lower production costs. It's where the economic giants of EVE operate.
Wow, so nullsec isn't just a battlefield, it's like an economic engine. The guide also mentions something called ratting, which sounds a bit like pest control.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Ratting is basically hunting down NPC pirates, but in nullsec, these aren't your average space thugs. They're tougher, more organized, and they drop some pretty valuable loot. And then there's these things called officer spawns, incredibly rare encounters that can reward you with some really powerful and unique items.
So there are players out there who are basically professional pirate hunters, risking it all for a chance at that legendary loot.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what makes EVE so captivating, that mix of risk and reward. But remember, nullsec is a constant dance between opportunity and danger. The guide makes that very clear.
Yeah, it talks about these gate camps, which sound like ambushes waiting to happen. Are there any other things you need to watch out for?
Gate camps are just one tactic. Imagine trying to pass through a narrow mountain pass, knowing there could be bandits lurking around every corner. That's the feeling in nullsec, especially around stargates. But there are other, more subtle threats, like local spies. Those are players who infiltrate your chat channels to gather intel and coordinate attacks. You got to be on your toes constantly.
It sounds like paranoia is a valuable skill in nullsec.
Oh.
And then there are these hot drops the guide mentions. Those sound pretty intense.
Imagine a whole fleet of enemy ships warping right on top of you, catching you completely off guard. That's a hot drop. Alliances use these structures called synostral fields to pull off these surprise attacks. And they often bring capital ships, the biggest and most powerful ships in EVE.
Okay, now I'm starting to see why the guide emphasizes the importance of intel and strategic thinking in nullsec. It's not just about brute force, it's about knowing your enemy and anticipating their moves.
Exactly, and that's where the social aspect of EVE really shines. Being part of an alliance isn't just about having backup in a fight. It's about sharing information, coordinating logistics, basically forming a tight-knit community that can handle anything.
So null-sec is like a giant chessboard where every move matters and information is your most valuable weapon. Now, the guide also describes wormhole space as something completely different. How does that compare to null-sec?
Wormholes are, by their very nature, unpredictable. It's like stumbling across a hidden portal that leads to a chain of isolated islands. You have no idea what you'll find there: uncharted territory, valuable resources, or maybe dangerous predators.
It sounds like exploration in its purest form, but what makes these wormholes different from just another star system?
Well, for one thing, they're unstable. The connections can collapse, leaving you stranded with limited resources. And once you're in a wormhole system, you're cut off from the rest of New Eden. You have to be completely self-sufficient.
Wow, so it's like venturing into the wilderness with no map and no guarantee of finding your way back. What kind of dangers are we talking about in wormhole space?
You've got these things called sleepers, ancient AI-controlled drones that guard valuable sites within these systems. They come in all shapes and sizes, from small, fast drones to massive capital ships, and they don't take kindly to visitors.
Ancient AI, that sounds like something straight out of science fiction. The guide also mentions something even more intimidating, these drifters.
Right, the drifters are a relatively new addition to wormhole space, and they've definitely made things more interesting. They're these incredibly powerful AI entities with advanced weaponry and aggressive tactics. Even experienced players have to be cautious around them.
So not only are you isolated in wormhole space, but you're constantly under threat from these powerful AI. It sounds pretty daunting.
It's definitely not for everyone, but for those who crave a challenge and the thrill of discovery, wormhole space offers some incredible rewards. Unique resources, valuable loot, and a sense of accomplishment that's hard to find anywhere else in Eve.
It's amazing how Eve manages to create such diverse environments within a single universe. You've got the structured political battles of faction warfare, the lawless frontier of null-sec, and now this almost mystical realm of wormhole space. It's mind-boggling.
And we haven't even touched on character development yet. The great thing about Eve is that it caters to all kinds of playstyles.
Yeah.
You can be a master strategist, a daring explorer, an industrial tycoon, or even a combination of all of them.
It's like Eve isn't just a game, it's a canvas for you to create your own unique story within this living, breathing universe. Before we move on to character development, though, there's one more thing about wormholes that I'm curious about. The guide mentions that other players can access these wormhole systems too. Does that mean player versus player combat in these unpredictable environments?
You get it. Wormholes aren't just about facing AI threats. You could run into another group of players exploring the same system. And let's just say, not all encounters are friendly.
So you could be in the middle of a tense fight with sleepers, and suddenly another group of players warps in. That's a whole other level of chaos. It makes preparation and teamwork even more important.
Exactly. You got to be ready for anything in wormhole space, but that's part of what makes it so thrilling. Unpredictable, challenging, and incredibly rewarding.
Okay, now I'm really starting to grasp the depth of Eve. It's more than just spaceships and lasers. It's about mastering this complex ecosystem, forming strategic alliances, and constantly adapting to a universe that's always changing.
And at the heart of it all is your character, the avatar you use to navigate this incredible world. Ready to dive into the intricacies of skill training, implants, and shaping your destiny in New Eden.
Okay, let's talk about character development then in Eve Online. It seems like your character in Eve is more than just a, digital avatar. It's a reflection of the choices you make, the path you take in this whole massive universe.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like you're shaping a piece of clay. Every skill you train, every implant you install, it all molds your character into something truly unique.
Yeah.
And the core of that whole process is the skill training system in Eve Online.
Yeah, the guide mentioned this massive skill tree with categories for everything: spaceship command, industry, even social skills. It's a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Where do you even begin?
Well, the beauty of Eve's skill system is that it happens in real time, even when you're offline. You just queue up the skills you want to train, and your character gradually improves over time. It's like passive learning while you sleep. You know what I mean?
So even when I'm not playing, my character's still progressing. That's amazing. It takes the pressure off. You don't have to feel like you're constantly grinding to catch up.
Exactly. It lets you play at your own pace. Focus on the parts of the game that really interest you. Like, do you want to be a master pilot, weaving through asteroid fields, outmaneuvering your enemies? Then you focus on spaceship command and navigation skills.
And if I'm more into the, economic side of Eve, I could specialize in trade or industry.
Exactly. You could become a tycoon, managing this vast industrial empire, building fleets of ships, manipulating the market to build your fortune. All those paths are open to you.
It's incredible how this skill system reflects the variety and depth of Eve itself. You're not just leveling up, you're literally shaping your destiny in this universe. The guide also mentioned attribute points. What are those exactly and how do they fit in?
Attribute points are like they enhance your character's natural abilities. You've got intelligence, willpower, charisma, and perception, and each one affects different parts of the game. Like intelligence boosts your learning rate so you train skills faster, while perception, that improves your targeting speed and accuracy, which is vital for combat pilots, obviously.
So you're kind of choosing your strengths and weaknesses, right? Like if I'm more of a strategist, I might focus on intelligence and willpower, while a frontline fighter would want perception and maybe charisma for negotiations and alliances.
Exactly. You're customizing your character to fit your playstyle. And then you've got implants, these cybernetic enhancements that can boost your attributes and skills even further.
Implants, that sounds intense. So like if I wanted to be the ultimate sniper, I could find implants that enhance my perception and gunnery skills.
That's the idea, but implants come with trade-offs. Some might boost certain abilities while hindering others, so it's about finding that balance, like fine-tuning a machine for peak performance.
It's amazing how character development in Eve goes so much deeper than just picking a class and leveling up. It's about making meaningful choices that really shape your whole journey in this universe. But no matter how skilled your character gets, they still need resources, ships, equipment, right? That's where industry and trading come in, I guess.
Absolutely. Industries is the backbone of Eve's economy. It's how players take raw materials and transform them into the ships, the modules, the ammo that fuel the entire game. And the guide explained these things called blueprints, which are basically the instructions for creating specific items.
So if I wanted to build my own fleet of, let's say, battleships, I'd need the blueprints, the materials, and then I'd need to find a production facility.
That's it. It's like setting up a factory. In the real world, you've got your raw materials, your assembly lines, and your skilled workforce, which in this case is your character's industry skills.
It's incredible how Eve reflects these real-world economic systems. You've got miners extracting resources, industrialists refining and manufacturing, traders moving goods between players.
And just like in the real world, there's a whole science to it. Managing your resources, understanding supply and demand, even researching new technologies to improve production. It's a whole other layer of depth to the game.
The guide even mentioned that you can invent new items through this process called, well, invention. It sounds like the ultimate expression of creativity in Eve.
It really is. Imagine taking existing blueprints and materials, combining them with research, and through trial and error, creating something completely new. A more efficient engine, a weapon with unique properties, even a module that changes how ships fly.
So it's the players who are driving innovation in Eve. That's incredible. It's like this constant arms race, everyone pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and then those innovations feed back into the economy, creating new demands and opportunities.
And that's where trading comes into play. The guy talked about station trading as the heart of Eve's market. It's where players buy and sell everything, raw materials, finished goods, even those crazy player-invented items we just talked about.
So it's like a giant stock exchange, with prices going up and down based on supply and demand, rumors, even major events that disrupt trade routes or create a need for certain resources.
Exactly. Successful traders in Eve are masters of information. They analyze market trends, predict price swings, and they know how to capitalize on opportunities.
It sounds like a whole other skill set, almost like playing the stock market in real life. The guide even mentions strategies like arbitrage, market timing, even something called scalping.
Those are just a few tools in a trader's arsenal. Arbitrage is all about exploiting price differences between regions, buying low in one place, selling high in another. Market timing is about anticipating price fluctuations and making your move at the right moment. And scalping, that's for the adrenaline junkies, making quick trades to profit from tiny price differences, usually dealing in massive quantities.
Wow. So trading in Eve is as much about psychology, understanding human behavior, as it is about crunching numbers.
You got it. It's a game of wits, intuition, and a little bit of daring. But whether you're drawn to the thrill of combat, the complexities of industry, or the strategic dance of the market, the beauty of Eve is that it lets you find your niche, your own path to success.
This has been an incredible journey, exploring the depths of Eve online. From the sheer scale of its universe and the complexity of its systems to the freedom it gives players to forge their own destinies, it's unlike any game I've ever seen.
And the amazing thing is, we've barely scratched the surface. There are countless stories waiting to be told, alliances to be forged, and fortunes to be made in New Eden.
So, to our listener out there who shared this incredible beginner's guide with us, I say this: get ready to launch your capsule because your adventure in EVE Online is about to begin. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of EVE Online. It's been a wild ride. Until next time, fly safe, capsuleers.